sales tax piece as we go along. Let's go to page 2, Natalie. So here's, we have a lot of moving pieces here on this page. The left side is our month-to-date information. The right side is year-to-date. And I always like to look at some year-to-date analysis for the committee here. While our total revenue is slightly less than budget, call it 0.5%, it's still 7.6% greater than last year when we compare it. So some good news and positive trends there. Looking at our expenses, they're favorable, which means we're spending less than we expect in total by about 2%. They're a little over 7% greater than last year at this time. If you remember, revenue growing at 7%, expenses are growing at 7.1%. That's kind of good news when your top line grows faster than your bottom line. So pleased to see that. And the year-to-date operating capital contribution, look at the bottom line there. It's $2.9 million compared to a budget of $1.6 million. You can see we're a full $1.3 million for the year ahead of our budget. Some really good news there. And to the right, you can see we're trending positive when we compare it to last year. So really a big thank you to the entire Metro organization for managing our expenses. The revenue side, we're doing well with that, but a lot of that is the sales tax, which it comes each month. And we use that information to manage our expenses, and we just want to be flexible and have the ability to pivot. Next page, Natalie. And here's our standard sales tax trending chart. Just wanted to highlight we have 3 months worth of actuals here, and right now we're ahead of budget for our sales tax when we compare it year to date, and we're also ahead from last year. So good news on both fronts with our sales tax. And as I mentioned, we keep a close eye on this. This is 75% of our revenue, our number one driver. So it's something that we do really focus on. And next page, Natalie. This is our standard cash flow and obligation report. It shows our 160 plus million in securities and cash on the top line, along with our obligations to show that we really can't keep spending all the 160. We have obligations for that, for most of it, and leaving us with some unrestricted cash that we can utilize going forward. Next page, Natalie. I think that was it for me. We're going to have Clark Schaefer. Courtney Nett is going to be here and present for Clark Schaefer. They did an accounts payable audit.
Tim, before you move on, we should see if there are any questions from the committee about the finances.
Just a request. Morning, everybody. Payroll and benefits, it's just such a huge number for us, right, on expenses. Naturally in the budget, it's lower than we budgeted. So can you give us a little deeper dive on what it is? Are we missing our mark in terms of hiring? How are we looking on staff?
It's a few pieces there, Mr. Driehaus. One is the vacancy percentage is a little higher than we expected. Another piece is the accounting for some of our insurance pieces within payroll, workers' comp especially. So we looked at that. Based on the actuals, we kind of reduced our monthly accrual based on the actuals we saw last year. So it's twofold there. One is the vacancy and the slower hiring, and the other component is part of the insurance, workers' comp piece. Yep, and medical insurance, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Driehaus.
And I would like to make one more comment before we move on from the financial report, and it's related to the sales tax slide. Natalie, if you could go back a couple. If you recall, at the end of last fiscal year, we finished the fiscal year about $4.9 million behind budget in county sales tax. And you've seen the kind of unpredictability. Just looking at that slide, you can see the volatility in sales tax. To be 1/3 through the year and to be over $250,000 ahead of budget on sales tax, and we had predicted an increase. We had planned for an increase in sales tax this calendar year. That's actually coming true, and to be ahead of schedule with respect to sales tax is huge. I don't think we can understate how important that is. So just wanted to highlight that for the committee. We're optimistic that the second quarter of the year will be the same. Just want to keep your eye on that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Now I'll turn it over to Courtney from Clark Schaefer. And again, this is a summary of the accounts payable and P-card audit that they perform for us. Also want to make sure that the committee is aware, Norman Bowie will give his standard internal audit update next month that you all expect. But Norman is spending some vacation time with his family. Well, actually, I think it's just his wife and left part of the family at home with his parents. So good for Norman. Courtney, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Well, good morning, everyone. As Tim said, I'm Courtney Nutt. I'm the Managing Director with Clark Schaefer Consulting's Risk and Controls Practice. I work as a co-sourced partner with my team to help Norman and the internal audit team here at SORTA execute all of the various components of their internal audit plan on an annual basis. So this year, I should say last year, we did an audit. We wrapped it up in the first quarter of 2025, but have worked through all of the processes we have for obtaining management's responses, and I'm here today to present to you some of the highlights of our accounts payable and procurement card engagement. Natalie, if you could go to the next page, the scope paragraph, the second half of that section down there. Yes, thank you. So our audit coverage was from July 1 of 2023 to June 30, 2024. That we have to make a determination and choose a cutoff period so that we can, look historically back at execution of controls. And so that was the period that we looked at. And the primary focus for us was around P-card usage and oversight, system access controls for these in-scope systems, which was primarily Maximo and Coda, AP reconciliations, and purchase order processing and payments, processing of credits through the system, and then also management of 1099 vendors. Our methodology follows at the bottom of that page into the next page. What we do is start with gaining an understanding of what those processes look like, who are the key members of the SORTA team that are involved with that. We develop some control objectives. Those control objectives cover two things. One would be, what do the policies say that SORTA is supposed to be doing? And also, what are some best practices that we see in our role as an external consultant? So we develop control activities and then develop a test plan from there. That test plan is reviewed with the internal audit team here, and then we'll go through more thorough walkthroughs and look at the policies and procedures in greater depth, and also inspect documentation for testing of transactions. Let's see here. Okay, so on the next page, actually right there, Natalie, the summary of results, each one of our observations is provided a ranking based upon our assessment of risk to the organization. That can go from high all the way down to an informational, which is kind of something to think about as just a best practice. It doesn't really have an impact on controls, but it's an informational finding that could still, we believe, enhance the overall environment. We do assign an audit rating definition as to just the overall status of the audit. That can go from strong to an unsatisfactory. For this engagement, we do believe that there are some areas that can be improved, so we've assigned a needs improvement for this engagement. If you go to the top of the next page, we had a total of 11 observations. For purposes of today, I'm going to focus on the 5 that we categorized as important. As you'll see in this chart, we had none. If you'll go to the next page, Natalie. There we go. So that's a better view there. So we had no findings that we deemed to be of high risk to the organization. We had 5 that we felt were important, and then the remaining were low or informational. So I'm going to focus my time on the ones that we deem to be important. You all have this report. You all have had an opportunity to read it, and at the end, I can take any questions that you might have. So the first observation that we had was around temporary increases for P cards. When a P card is issued, a credit limit is established on that P card, but for a variety of reasons, there can be a request for a temporary increase in that credit limit. And we did find some area for improvement where some credit limits were temporarily increased and either weren't decreased in accordance with the policy, which is a 3-day window, or in one instance was never decreased, which left that cardholder with that elevated level of credit limit. So our recommendation is to kind of formalize into the process, what that temporary increase and removal of that increase looks like, and also to really challenge, based upon the nature of the reasons for someone needing an increase in their P card limit, whether the 3 days is an appropriate time frame for having that elevated access, or if that needs to be modified within the policy. This is a good place to point out that each one of our observations has a management response that has been provided and has been built into this report. it is important to note with respect to the P card program, we were almost on a concurrent timeline where we were doing a review of P card, but management was doing a bit of an overhaul of the P card process at the same time. So this engagement just gave an opportunity for some additional observations from our engagement to be considered as management was updating that P card process. So you will see that as kind of a standard response as we go through here. The second observation at the bottom of page 7 relates to P card cancellations. We did do a test of terminated P card holders during the period of our review and found that in 1 out of 2 instances that we did have a P card that was not canceled until 13 days after the termination. We would like to see that done a little bit more timely, just to reduce the risk of any access to that P card if that holder still held that actual card, any risk to the organization. On about the middle of page 8, Natalie, the next observation that we have is around the expense report submission and review. We looked at that policy, the P card policy, and found some instances where we had exceptions to the process, and I've detailed out some of those there. May not have always been submitted, the support may not have been submitted in the time frame that is specified by the policy. There are obvious reasons sometimes that may be the case, but just ensuring that we're trying to get timely submission of the supporting documentation for the activity so it can be reconciled. Some were missing receipts. Some had a documentation submitted where there wasn't a description of the expense. And then we had a few other limited non-compliance pieces that happened in kind of one-off instances, but some tax charges for a vendor where we should not be paying taxes. Monthly purchases that exceeded the credit limit, and instances where we may have had one card holder that had allowed their card to be used by someone else in their department to make a purchase. So we would like to see some more formalization of policies around this regarding submissions and the review process to reduce the errors that we identified within our testing sample. Maybe even implementation of a checklist that can kind of walk through all of the things that need to be reviewed as a part of this oversight, and then also some retraining for those that are P card holders as well as those involved in the review process to ensure that we're following policies and procedures. The next one that we had was also related to P card. We identified an instance where we had one card holder that had 2 P cards. There was an error in original issuance. It was under the wrong name, and there was a new card issued, but both of those cards showed as an open status when we did our review, and both had a credit limit assigned to them. So there was a risk there that created a credit limit higher than what that individual should have held on behalf of the organization. So cleaning this up, we would recommend canceling one of the cards and also doing a review just to make sure that all activity on the cards was appropriate given their roles and responsibilities with regard to the organization. And then the last observation that we had that was kind of what we would deem to be an important was around accounts payable reconciliations. We did a review of about 5 different accounts payable reconciliations and wanted to look at a sample of months for those accounts. They ranged in balance from $50,000 to about $800,000. There was a little bit of confusion as we started getting in and interviewing and discussing what that reconciliation process was in accordance or with respect to how frequently those were reviewed, what that process actually looked like. And so we just recommend kind of creating some formalized procedures and assigning roles and responsibilities, discussing within that how to remediate any issues found in the reconciliation and how that documentation should be retained so it's accessible to all individuals that are a part of the reconciliation process for these accounts on behalf of SORTA. The remainder of the recommendations throughout are low or important, so I won't spend time going through those. And then we also have some appendices where we have provided some direct feedback on the policies around accounts payable as well as purchasing card in Appendix B and C that can also be considered by SORTA as they do some revision to their documentation and processes around this area. So with that, any questions that I can answer for the committee?
All right, well, thank you so much for that, Courtney. It is important to note that management is reviewing these and implementation of updates scheduled for Q2 as a completion timeframe, correct? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
So we will
Could I,
move.
could I
I'm so
follow up
sorry.
on that? So Q2's over, right? So we're gonna get an update soon on this. Just none of these individually seem too significant of a problem, but as Courtney went through the sequence, the anxiety grows a little bit more.
Yeah.
So just
And
when
it-
should we expect to hear more? And
So, to your first point, the timing of this review ended in June of 2024, right? And as mentioned by Courtney, we're in the process of overhauling the process of our P card and AP. And so Tim can talk a little bit about where we are in that process. I'll talk about how the reporting will come back to the board. All of these findings, similar to all the findings in all of our internal audit processes, get added to that internal audit sheet that you all see. And Norman will log those onto that sheet, and you'll be presented as part of Norman's update next month of where we are with every single one of these, not just the important ones, but all the ones all the way through the low ranking. And Tim, I don't know if you want to talk about where we are with respect to the overhaul of the policy.
We can, yes, Mr. Etheridge. So what we done, when I came in here last year, it was clear that the P card program had grown from a handful of cards to more widespread within the organization, call it close to 70 cardholders. And so when you go from something so small, go from 0 to 60 so quick, there was just some challenges with the reporting and some of the education and learnings with the program. We're in the process of going through that, removing some cards, eliminating cards, and saying, let's have a target of X number of cards instead of 70. So it's easier to manage. So we're going through that and working through that. The one where the two names, just to be clear, it would be like one card was issued as Etheridge Blake, the other card was Blake Etheridge. So it wasn't like, it had the wrong name completely. It was a naming convention like that. And as far as the accounts payable and the entire balance sheet that we have, we've started to do a quarterly review and reconciliation of those accounts. So what happens is you have your balance sheet accounts, you do a reconciliation of those accounts to make certain that the activity is warranted, and that has already started on as far as the quarterly reviews of that. But we do appreciate Clark Schaefer and Norman and his team, because it was helpful with me stepping in, them finishing their audit at the same time. And we were able to, pull our brains together and say, okay, what should we be doing here? And it was some real-time movement with both parties. And so extremely helpful to Clark Schaefer and to Norman and his team.
great, thank you.
All right, next we'll have our investment of funds report. That goes through June. It looks like the yields are remaining stable and liquidity is strong. Tim, can you walk us through this, please?
Really, thanks, Ms. Clark. Really nothing remarkable here. As we can see, the yields are staying a little healthier than we had expected. But again, still, robust balances. You can see at the end of June, we had over 160 million in the operating fund and close to 150 million in the infrastructure fund. So again, nothing remarkable here. And as always, just keeping a close eye on the yields, making certain that we can maximize any yield that we can. Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or discussion points on that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the report as presented.
I move to approve the report as presented.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, that looks like a conclusion of the business that we have. Are there any other items of business or concerns from the committee? All right. Then we'll wrap up. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 19th at 8:30, same place. We can adjourn this meeting at 8:53. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's roll right into planning and ops. If you need coffee or anything, please go and do that. So we have the minutes. Any questions, concerns, changes? If not, I'll move the approval of the minutes from last month.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say left. All right. The motion passes. So good news, executive team.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Quickly, I'll run through the May Silver Wheel Award recipients. First, we have Reggie Brown, who's our Leadership Award winner. Reggie's the Operation Training Specialist. Reggie has been a training specialist supervisor and has been that for 3 years now, and is responsible mainly for the Access and Bond Hill divisions in terms of managing the training specialists that oversee the training for both of those divisions. And he has been excellent with helping us to build the Access training program and continues to also help on the fixed route side. Reggie works a ton of hours to help us stay on track with our training, all the operators on both the Access side and fixed route side that we continue to bring in. So congratulations, Reggie. And then on the admin side, we have with us Bree Ra, who is actually with us today. Was recently promoted into a new role as a digital media specialist and has just done a phenomenal job with helping us to continue to cultivate relationships and elevate our digital presence and in the community. So we are grateful to them for all the work that they've continued to do on our media presence. And you see Bree a lot because they are with us, always taking pictures when we need them. So thank you, Bree, for everything that you do. Next, we have Queens Gate operator Orlando Elliott. And Orlando's being recognized for his professionalism and his engaging personality with both internal and external customers. He is being recognized for there was recently an issue with an SUV, a hit and run incident where an SUV hit a bus, and he safely guided the bus to the side, ensured that all of his customers were safe, and the SUV took off, so he got the bus off the road and just ensured everybody was safe, all of the customers. So thank you, Orlando. And then we have Queensgate maintenance employee, Malitha Brown. And Malitha is really just being recognized for her spirit of collaboration and teamwork. And she is always providing additional support to other employees. And we thank her for that. And then we have Bond Hill operator Nicole Allen. Nicole is being recognized for her OTP for May, which was 100%. And she just is real committed to making sure the bus moves and stays timely and on schedule, and very professional when it comes to engaging with the customers on her routes. Then we have Bond Hill maintenance employee Mike Kurzaz. Mike is a diesel repair employee, and Mike is very well versed on our hybrid buses, and his knowledge of the hybrid buses and the repairs has been instrumental in ensuring that he is able to help and train new apprentices on the hybrid bus and how to continue to keep them upkeep of the hybrid buses, I should say. And then last, we have Jelenia Crawford. Jelenia is an Access employee and just continues to remain professional at all times. Recently in May, she had an incident with one of her customers who had a behavioral crisis, for lack of a better term, and it could have been somewhat dangerous for some of the other passengers that were on the bus, and she was able to de-escalate the situation and make sure everybody stayed safe until additional support arrived to help with that particular issue. So congratulations to all of the May Silver Wheel Award winners. Next, we have our career fair. So we have our annual career fair. This is our big bus career fair that we have annually. The big bus, we have vendors there, we have a DJ there, we have food, we have games. It is usually held the better part of the day. It will be at Queensgate this year again, and we will have interviews on site. We will you can do an application on site, and you can even get a job offer depending on how things go during your interview. So we're looking forward to that to again engage and increase our number of bus operator hires for this year. And then next we have upcoming our Kings Island, our annual Family Day at Kings Island. It will be August 9th and 10th. So we hope you are able to join us and bring your family members. You can get up to 4 tickets. So if you need tickets and you haven't already, let Natalie know, please do so, and we'll make sure that you get what you need. And we, again, hope that you can join. It is a really good time for all the employees that we see.
Thanks, Adrian. And Bill, let's take one look back at June, our Safety Month, and our 2 Million Mile Club inductee.
Yeah, we talked about this last month, and just to highlight that again, Operator Robert Waters, who was acknowledged for 2 million miles, which is 30 years of safe driving and no preventable accidents. So there are only probably less than 50 2 million milers in our organization's history. So it's quite an accomplishment for Robert, and really for our entire team to have that many 2 million miler award winners. And that's a national safety award, and so they get recognized at a national level as well.
All right, thanks, Bill. Also, earlier this month, we joined Great Parks in celebrating our partnership at a ribbon cutting on a new shelter on Springfield Pike. CEO Andy Aiello was there delivering remarks, highlighting our mission to better connect our region through partnerships like these, and certainly through the MTIF project. Through this project here, we highlighted MTIF Award, replacing or installing roughly 3,500 feet of sidewalk. So thank you to everybody that continues to make the MTIF program a success, and certainly those that continue to build and foster our partnership with Great Parks. All right, that's the news.
Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to warn you, my son has become very interested in these shelters and updating them, and he's keeping track of them as we go around town. So I'm not sure exactly why he's become so interested in the project, but it's good. So I have an assistant on the project.
How easy with scissors for ribbon cut? Make
Checking them off. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
and not to belabor that one slide, but when I think about what the vision for the MTIF program was, that project is a perfect example, right? You have a neighborhood that did not have sidewalks. Those sidewalks now connect that neighborhood to transit. They also connect it to a regional park. And then the MTIF project, along with ODOT, is connecting the bike trail through the park. Really to connect all the way over to Winton Woods, which will eventually connect to the Mill Creek Bikeway. You're talking about huge connectivity for this region. And so to be able to put a little bit of money in there to help make those connections that provide this huge value to the community, I think that when folks thought about the MTIF, this is exactly what they were thinking about. It's really awesome.
Well said. Well said.
Like I have a quick question for Adrian. Adrian, what is the minimum age for bus operator? 21. Thank you.
And if you know anybody who's interested, there is the opportunity to drive the bus. A very short distance, but on property. Get behind the wheel, feel what it's like. All right. Thank you very much. And speaking of kids, back to school presentation. I think the board is very excited to hear about this. Yeah.
We're excited to give it. So yeah, we've got our back to school presentation here. If you hear this phrase around the NFL, there really is no off season. I think the same thing applies to student transportation and running schools. When one school year ends, you're actually well into prep for the next one. So today, let's go over an overview of CPS and student transportation on Metro. With each year, there are always updates, areas for improvement. We'll review some of those today with respect to new schools, students, and families. And we continue to upgrade the bus passes themselves. We'll review those changes as well. Go over some frequently asked questions, so sharing here and sharing in a public forum, certainly for access when we archive this presentation, that families can access this information. And there were always next steps with a relationship like this and this kind of service. So student transportation on Metro, CPS contracts with us to purchase student passes. This is for regular Metro service, and it's for the academic year. So passes go live with the first day of school and continue through June 30 per our contract. That amounts to over 12,000 CPS student passes. That's for all CPS students in grades 7 through 12. So to emphasize this point, that includes all CPS high schools. And then new this year, that includes all 7th and 8th grade students, regardless of school type. So we have 12 new schools this year. That includes things that might traditionally be labeled as junior high schools or elementary schools. If you're a 7th or 8th grader, your student transportation will happen on Metro. It sounds like a lot, but from a student standpoint, it amounts to approximately a 10% increase to our student rosters. So CPS also has a responsibility to provide transportation for students in the district that go to parochial and charter schools. That is also part of this PASS program. All told amounts to roughly a $3.5 million annual contract. Moving to the next slide, you see our ridership number there, 1.6, nearly 1.7 million student rides in the recent academic year. And looking at our performance, we're very proud of these marks and continue to shoot for high performance here in terms of student transportation. 81% of students arriving at school 10 minutes ahead of time and 93% within 5 minutes of that first bell. Highland team over the years in this new model, we're now into, I believe, school year 5 of the new models. We continue to streamline our network. That also impacts student trips. So you see here the average daily PM boardings at transit centers, certainly something we continue to pay attention to. Even among 12,000 passes, you see these numbers here. It still gets warranted attention, not only from Metro, but from a number of stakeholders. And then throughout the year, we'll continue to make minor service adjustments. We certainly anticipate learning things as we go live with 12 new schools and students. Highlight will review some service changes with August. We'll certainly monitor those and how they're performing. That's another ongoing process. Next slide, Natalie, let's talk about our passes. So again, this year we have the RFID passes for all. These are tap passes that interact with our fare boxes and give us great data. That includes extracurricular passes as well. You see the weekdays there in terms of when the passes are active. With the change in the PM hours, we've actually shortened the PM window opening to 5 p.m., previously 5:30. In conjunction with CPS, we presented them this option. When we're able to analyze student trip origination and destinations with their schools, we can see exactly how many students will start to fall in this 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30 window of when they should be on the bus. And with the exception of roughly 20 students, we can get everybody on their buses from school with the necessary transfers by 5 p.m. We have a solution for those 20 or so students. They'll get an extra curricular pass, so there's no issue there in terms of their access to the system. But by and large, we should see transit centers and schools cleared certainly by 5 o'clock, and extracurricular passes remain valid until 10:30. Here's a new change here that we're excited about, and CPS is as well. We will print direct and non-direct or a transfer pass, these pass types. They'll be visually distinct, so we'll use, as you see here in the table, black print, blue, and red print for 3 particular passes. So they'll be color-coded. That's easy to observe student use with respect to these passes, but they'll also be technically distinct behind the scenes. We will program these passes according to type. So as we analyze student usage throughout the system, share that information with CPS, we'll be tracking whether students with a direct route are using the pass to coincide with their direct route to and from school. That student does not need to transfer buses given their home and school locations. But some students, as we provide transportation to everybody throughout the district, throughout the network, they do need to transfer. We're calling that a non-direct route. That student does need one bus transfer. Again, it will be color-coded and technically distinct to match that pass type. And then a smaller subset of students get the extracurricular passes so they can traverse the system after these 5 p.m. hours. Virtual students as well get bus passes, right? Because there might be some need for them to use the system, some after hours issue and such. That student may need to transfer. We will print that pass accordingly and then share this data with CPS. So to be clear, right now the design is that every student still has the full access to the system as they have in years past. But should the need arise, should we need to make a different change, we will have a visual tool to inspect that pass use, but then also technically behind the scenes to track that data and share it with CPS. And then CPS would engage the schools and students regarding student pass usage, make sure we're coaching students or CPS coaching students to use those passes as efficiently as designed. Some other news for the start of the upcoming school year. We work cooperatively on a full-scale joint communication plan. That includes on August 6th, CEO Andy Aiello and CPS COO Chris Burkhart will address a joint meeting of the CPS Board and Cincinnati City Council as they discuss a broader approach to the new school year. Certainly transportation plays a part. We provided a very similar update and successful update last year to this joint team right on the eve there of the start of the new academic year. Metro staff, as always, will attend all CPS open houses. You see the dates there. That's significant because we've already been working with CPS on the open house schedule with transportation in mind. So as we add 12 new schools to the schedule, we still got the same size Metro team, whether it's supervisors or the communication staff. So spreading that team to the 12 schools becomes certainly something we want to work on the logistics on together with CPS. We've done that with the open house schedule and continue to fine tune it. So that's also been a very fruitful result of our high quality partnership. And as always, in this model, Metro staff will be on site in the system in the opening weeks of the school year. Think transit centers, schools, certainly points of high frequent connections throughout the system to assist students, again, with a particular focus on the new school students and families with our transit supervisory team. We will also renew the ability for CPS parents to ride free with their students that first week. So ride free, get acclimated to the system, ask any questions. Let's get those students and families comfortable with riding Metro. On the next slide, you see a communication to that effect. This will be shared with students and families. It can function as a pass type, but note that parents can still ride with their students in that school year, even if they don't have this card with them. But the card will also have a QR code to scan to take you directly to Metro information for how you plan your CPS student trip. We're also recording or producing best practice videos with Metro Man, Trayvon Sanderson, yes, to talk about how he uses the bus, how easy it is to use the bus, how safe it is to use the bus. He's certainly a champion. We're very happy to have him help with this back to school effort and create some content that the kids will certainly digest much more easily than death by PowerPoint. So look for that coming soon from Metro Man. Safety and security, also paramount when you're transporting north of 10, 11, 12,000 of students on a regular basis. We work regularly with CPS to address onboard issues. That includes our safety and security team, the sharing of onboard real-time audio and video recordings. CPS also proactively emphasizes their student of conduct while riding Metro. We're very appreciative of that and setting these student behavior expectations. Our detail officers, they're regularly staffed at Metro transit centers. They continue to be a very valuable resource when it comes to student transportation. The board recently had a presentation from Ms. Iris Rowley and speaking about her collaborative agreement community care initiative team. They certainly bring a lot to the student experience, and you heard the value that she and team are able to bring to students as they traverse through the system. Our Metro supervisors are always present on Government Square. And some newer information, the Fifth Street liquor store has closed. They have moved operations. I see pens going down for a little hand clapping. Maybe that's welcome. Yeah, all right. All right. And we'll begin outfitting the space for our new ticket sales office and security center. So a security center that faces right there on 5th Street for CPS or CPD officers and such. And then this will be the first full academic year of the community service officers at 311 team to be at transit centers. Not every student issue or interaction needs a police officer. That's where the 311 team steps in where appropriate. And again, we'll continue to gather that ridership data, share it with CPS each month, daily, monthly, school year to date ridership, and certainly this year, tracking and sharing that direct and non-direct pass usage. So let's shift to some FAQs. You know, how do I plan my trip? How do I get comfortable with Metro and get information in real time? The best way is to use the transit app. So plan your routes, see the various route options given where you are and where you're going, and track all of those options in real time. Of particular note is that students and families should use trip dates, program trip dates into the app after August 17th. That's when the new fall service schedule goes into effect. So if you're planning now and don't change that, you're getting a Metro route as of today, not when school is actually in effect. That will go live in early August, right? As we have that schedule built and loaded into our systems in early August, families can start using that August 17th or post-August 17th date to plan their trips. And you can always visit our website for route and schedule information. Students, when they're riding, just tap the pass on the fare box, show it to the driver, and follow the student conduct expectations. Quite simple. Real-time info, we also have a shift of our alert system that went live June 30th, and the easy alerts ended on July 14th. So now through that same transit app, you can get your real-time updates. And then that app, you can select the route or routes you're interested in, pin them to your favorites, and then you get service alerts, detouring and such as they arise. So everything for students and families right there within the transit app. One other frequently asked question on the next slide there, Natalie, is do students need to take more than one transfer? The short answer is no. With some more detail there, that's in compliance with CPS policy and state law that such students should not have to transfer more than one time when traversing a system. So we have several routing options for students to and from every school where a transfer may be an option, not required in a lot of cases, and certainly not required to make more than one transfer to use a Metro system to and from school. Next steps, they're really continuing steps. Our collaborative efforts continue throughout the year. As some examples, we've just closed out the summer service with CPS, and we had a nice debrief session with the CPS and Metro teams. What did we observe? And already making notes and scheduling the meetings for next spring in advance of next summer to make sure that we're continuing to improve summer transportation for those in summer school. And we have various CPS and Metro teams, whether it's handling pass issues, service issues that arise, senior leadership getting together on regular, frequent bases. Those meetings certainly continue. The ridership analysis is a key part of what we do and the service that we offer. We will certainly observe that service as the new school year gets underway. There's always something to take away. New students, new travel patterns, new personal vehicle patterns at schools, et cetera. So we'll be out in the field observing how the service is functioning, and continuous improvement will certainly take that on. And we continue to engage with many community stakeholders, whether it's the city, CPD officers, those with a vested interest in how things function downtown and near transit centers. All of that certainly continues. Death by PowerPoint is now finished. Maybe you'd rather have this in a Metro Man video. We'll get that for you. We're certainly open to Q&A. We're happy to take any questions from the board.
John, I have a question. Could you please clarify something for me? I remember when we started talking about this and adding the 12 schools, it was stated that we're not rerouting anything at this point, and buses won't necessarily go to the school. Is that still accurate? And if so, like what is the furthest a student would have to walk from a stop to their school?
Sure. All those things are certainly still true. We're thankful that certainly with our data sharing with CPS and we have student addresses in schools, we can then compare that to the system data and where do you have to get on and off. High-lead team, then they measure the walking distance, and we're very happy to report a very select small group of students south of 100, maybe south of 50, that would have a walking distance of greater than, say, 2,000 feet, so even a half mile or so. And in talking to the CPS team, they were very happy to see that that's the actual result of putting these students in schools on the system without changing how the system works. The network's that robust to get everybody that close to school, and they'll troubleshoot this handful of students that might have a further walk. But even CPS was quick to point out they already have their own 1 mile walking distance parameter with respect of whether they offer bus service. So to think that north of 95% of Metro students can get within 2,000 feet or less of a school, I don't want to say a non-issue, but it certainly puts it in a certain scale and scope of how they troubleshoot the handful of students that do have a longer walk. So that data sharing, that relationship, that what our team does to then analyze how the service can actually, how it's going to play out for those students. Very helpful tools in collaboration, but yeah, we're happy to see that not only do we not have the time to do these reroutes or rebuild the system, maybe not even appropriate given federal regulations, the network itself still performs at a very high level, and CPS will handle troubleshooting anybody with a very long walking distance.
Thank you. And then have we taken it a step further to look at the actual route that student would have to walk? For example, is there a sidewalk?
Yes.
Is it a safe route for that student?
Exactly, and those are the kind of things that as we get out in the system when the school year starts, that's where we'll start to place personnel to make sure we're monitoring where students are walking. Is it safe? CPS is engaged in whether they're having their resource team there. Do they use crossing guards? That's certainly part of it, right? We need to see the routing when we measure the distance. Safety, certainly of concern. There's really only a couple schools where you might be, snaking through some neighborhoods, crossing streets and such. We certainly troubleshoot those issues together with the CPS team.
Has DOTE been involved in that final conversation about how the student physically gets from the bus stop
Yes,
to
a
school?
great question. One story in particular, right? We have construction near Ethel Taylor, which is a school new to Metro, construction well underway. It will continue at least through calendar year 25, maybe into Q1 of 26, where there's a 2-lane road, and when they're working on one side, the other direction is closed and detouring. So we've had joint conversations, Metro, CPS, DOTE, talking about the construction plan. We'll have a site visit in early August once they've made the directional change switch given the construction, and then start talking about, okay, where should the Metro bus detour? They're also handling together, DOTE and CPS, how to handle yellow buses for the school. So they'll have that issue, but then we'll look at Metro detouring, where's a safe spot for a stop. DOT has pledged to put in temporary crosswalks. CPS has pledged to have crossing guards there at as many as 2 different cross points or entry points into the school. So yeah, that's exactly the kind of additional stakeholder cooperation. As we analyze this change with 12 new schools, here's an identified hotspot. We jump on it together right away, and we're very much looking forward to the actual site visit in August to finalize those plans for safe transportation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really impressed by the continuing relationship and improving relationship between CPS and Metro and the leadership ongoing. So and CPD. So congratulations on that. I was reviewing this last night with Quincy Driehaus, my daughter, and she said 93%, Dad. That's 7%. I don't mean to be critical, but I'm speaking up on behalf of my daughter, who said 7% of the time not being there 5 minutes before is what does success look like from a percentage standpoint? And I don't know what a typical yellow bus system might provide. Is it 100%? Is it 99%? And how do we What's our KPI on that? What are our KPIs, and what about those 7% that don't get there 5%, 5 minutes ahead of class?
Sure. From a KPI standpoint, 93, very high number, certainly hard to beat that. What we do with the 7% is educating those students, and through CPS or the school leadership, you've got earlier routing, right? So where the student might get there after school, maybe you had 3 or 4 different Route 11s before that routes. So when did you get on your bus? That kind of coaching through the system, right? You'll see it.
So individual coaching with those that are not jumping on the earlier routes.
Yes, it's not like we have, let's say there's a, Route X going to a certain school and it can only arrive 10 minutes after the bell. That's not the case, right? There's an earlier trip to get you there on time. So through the schools, coaching the students, how do you access Metro? Maybe you can take an earlier bus. There is a bus, there is a network that'll get you there.
And historically, how have we done year over year with those percentages?
These are roughly stable. We've seen maybe as high as 84, 85% within 10 minutes. I think that coincides with, the larger system OTP. We've been in these high 70s for some time, right? And we ebb and flow a few percentage points here or there. But looking back 2-3 years, that's pretty consistent performance.
Okay. My objective here wasn't to blame our system, but just to acknowledge that 7% not getting there ahead of class is not awesome for students. But I know it could be behavioral, or it could be the individuals and coaching those individuals. So anything we can do on that front to continue to assist would be great.
Yes, sir.
I had a very similar situation for some of my staff. I thought that I was told, well, I was late, Miss Chelsea, because my bus was late. And I was in agreement. I was like, oh, the buses are late. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I had to take a step back, because you have multiple opportunities to get on a bus earlier, and it's your responsibility to do so. So I certainly like that element, and I hope that with that coaching, we're also being mindful when you're reporting that information. Hey, 7% of you need to, get your parents involved and do what you need to do in order to make sure that you are timely at school. I think that's a very important message that I hope the schools also make sure hits home as well.
To that point, I think it bears emphasizing what we do at the open houses, right? So staff will sit down with families, concerned parents, maybe new parents. How do I use this tool? How do I plan and track it? Spending individual time with concerned students and families. You might have these 3 buses, but that one's kind of pushing it in terms of getting there on time, or this one has a transfer, take that into account. So that individual coaching we do even before the school year starts. That's a big part of what we do at the open houses.
I think you all do an excellent job with the amount of work that you're putting in on the front of it. I'd rather prevent a fire than try to put it out. Next question I have is, are those open houses only in person, or do you have a virtual option for folks that can't quite get there? Is that,
I think Andy's right. That is a CPS question. We show up in person for all of the sessions. I don't know if there is a virtual option. That's a good question. We can certainly follow up.
the CPS could make it virtual as well for parents.
Yeah.
And perhaps have some of those one-on-one, maybe some breakout rooms or something like that to try to alleviate confusion.
I'll certainly ask a question.
I just wanted to credit Mr. Driehaus and Ms. Driehaus, Quincy, with reminding me the experience of, I read 93, didn't think anything of it, was like, hey, that's a really good number. But lived experience matters too, and brings a completely different perspective. So make sure you think her.
Let the record reflect. Quincy Driehaus.
I also want to underline something there, Mr. Driehaus, that you mentioned, the partnership, observing that the partnership is stronger than ever, right? The CPS board made the decision to use Metro as a transportation tool for another tranche of students, right? And the reaction by this board and by both teams at the staff level has been to dig in and make sure that we over-communicate and work really well together to make the best of this. So, the CPS board has talked about the fact that it costs about $3,000 to provide annual service on Yellow Bus and about $350 on Metro, right? So from a financial perspective, they're making decisions that impact our system, but we're all part of the same community, and we're working really hard to make the absolute best of the situation. And John and his team do an incredible job of making sure we're all on the same page.
I would venture to say that the customer service for $350 is spectacular compared to $3,000 as well.
I would like to say just kudos, stellar service, and to answer one of the questions regarding compared to the Yellow Bus, even outside of the financial savings, really the getting to school on time way exceeds Yellow Bus services. So kudos. My question is along the lines of individual accountability. Parents have to get the kids to the bus on time. The kids have to get to the bus on time. As a former teacher, I hear it all. That I was late because the bus was late. No, you were late because you didn't get to the bus on time. And so as far as education, I do understand the open house fairs, but any other ways, and as a person who works at a nonprofit, I probably see the parents more than the schools. So whether it's through social media ways that nonprofits can get the word out, or the brochures itself, and it's really around educating the parent population. So I love the parents riding to school with the students and getting them comfortable with riding the bus. But my only concern is around how are we communicating the message and getting it out ahead of time in any way that I can help. I also serve on the Human Service Council, so I can get information out there as well.
Thank you.
We will be sure to share all this with the board, and it will be all over our social media and our website, and we'll make sure we push that out to you all. Appreciate that support. And just one last thing, I think maybe before we move on, as John mentioned, 13,000 individual trips throughout the city to get to school. Every school year will come with some adjustments, right? Day one, we have done everything we can do to plan very well. We expect a really good first couple weeks of school, but we also have to provide a little bit of grace to those students and those families as everybody tries to navigate a new way of getting to school, especially for those new 1,300 students. So we are on high alert those first 2 weeks, making sure that everybody's eyes and ears are on the system. So when things inevitably happen, we're there to adjust and make sure we can help people as best we can.
I hate to take the position of Debbie Downer, but I'm wondering what we're doing to mitigate the impact that it has on our other riders. Because whereas, yeah, we can say a student should go get an earlier bus, a working professional that's getting to work or a meeting has a tight schedule doesn't have the same luxury because the bus is full due to the kids and or because the kids are acting out. I saw passenger after passenger leave a bus last year during the school year and say to the driver, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this. And so I'm just wondering what kind of measures we're taking to mitigate those types of situations.
Two things. One is, as mentioned by John before, we're constantly monitoring demand on the system. And so when it comes to those patterns, when we see overcrowding, we try to adjust and we try to add capacity in the system at those peak times, if at all possible, to help spread that demand out, which also helps to reduce some of the behavioral challenges. And then two, as mentioned before, we have constant communication with students. So if operators report to us that the behavior was off the charts, that information goes to our safety security people, who goes to CPS to try to track down those kids and those principals to address that behavior.
And so is that like an easy button a driver can like press so that that's a quick and easy process to report those types of things? I heard a lot about like different patterns, and I'm sure that folks get weary of reporting, like say you've got a group of kids that always gets on at this one spot, and this is, a thing. Is this an easy thing to document and note so that it's not also another arduous part of the process?
We can get a little bit more detail on exactly what that process is and provide it to you. Yeah.
I have a question. The community, I'm not sure what the title is, support, do they ride the bus or they're out on the?
Yeah, they're out actually in the system. So at transit centers, last year, the second half of the year, we had them at largely the. Everybody's phone's gonna be going on.
Missing juvenile.
Is it Amber? Amber Alert.
I'll tell you what, I'm paying $190 for Verizon for one phone. I haven't gotten a message. That's, oh, I'm sorry.
Ready.
Mine didn't buzz. Mine will be late. That's not a plug for T-Mobile. So they were largely at Government Square, but then we have the ability to shift them in the system as needed, but not on the bus at the transit centers themselves. So think Oakley, Northside, certainly Government Square. With our detail officers, we'll do random ride-alongs, targeted rides as needed, that sort of thing. We use the detail officers for that.
To piggyback a little earlier, do we have like a cutoff for misbehavior on a bus where we'll revoke their privilege?
We do, and working with CPS and the school, that certainly is a potential consequence. I think accountability came up earlier. That is a tool.
I'm
right?
supportive of that consequence.
And
I just am, because you're talking about the safety of other people,
Yeah.
and if you can't behave yourself on a bus, then you're probably gonna have some challenges in school, and that's not our, in my opinion, our responsibility to have to deal with.
In conjunction with CPS, we do that from time to time.
So going back
So-
to Bree's example, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to Bree's example, do we have enough resources to most people aren't going to self-report. They're just going to stop getting on the bus, I would think. But so the cases where they do report to the driver, hey, I'm not comfortable anymore. Do we have the ability to talk to that individual on that route and say, hey, we're going to put somebody on there for a couple days to address not security, but to watch this with you, right? And report, like have a direct communication with that individual.
Sure. Bill, you want to handle that from a customer complaint service or operations?
Yeah, we have almost like 4 different sets of tools that we can use. We've got CPS staff that have actually been willing to ride buses. We have our own supervisors. We have our police detail. We have the 311 staff that can do those follow-up rides when we get those reports. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not necessarily behavior that's to the point of being disruptive. It's a full bus, and it's a breaking in period that we see the first 30 days of every school year, where people have to get used to the bus was half full for the summer, and now it's full with every seat and maybe a couple of people standing. So that's an adjustment that works itself out over time. But yeah, we've got those resources that we put out in the service to take those rides and see what's going on. We rely upon the operators. We have the video systems that we can pull. We spend a lot of time pulling bus videos to review those scenarios to see what actually was going on. And then we go and take those videos to the school. We identify who those students are. We go to the school. We show them to the school resource officers, the school administrators, and ultimately they're the ones who then are primarily responsible for behavior correction.
I'd say I'm impressed with how these summer meetings before the school year have progressed over the past several years. Initially, I think we were rushing, Haled and team, to plan and organize the system to get the students there. And now that's not as much of a discussion. Ed and team are still doing work, but add 12 new schools in, yeah, we've got it, right? The communications with CPS, community engagement, has really developed over time, right? And I keep asking these questions over the past few months and always had the answer. You're always ahead of any question I asked. So I'm impressed with that. And I hear one thing, and many other elements, but I hear one thing coming back. It's the robust network that solves the problems, right? The well-planned, well-staffed network that solves the problem. So as we think about this as a board, I think we have to think about how do we help that network to remain robust. And we should definitely be communicating with the community about the changes, how to figure out their routes, show up in the initial weeks and throughout the whole year to support them. But also, I wrote down Career Fair, Queensgate, Saturday, August 23rd. And I mean this in all sincerity. We need to get people there. We need to be fully staffed. I know it won't help that staffing line on Mr. Walker's wall of numbers, but we need to have every route covered with a driver, with an operator. And this also helps some of the other questions about other riders, not CPS riders. We're having every route running, no missed trips, because that's what serves the entire community best. So as you think, what can I do here? Make sure you get people to that career fair, and keep doing that throughout the year. And staff, keep doing all the things you're doing. And I've looked forward to a great school year. So
I love
any
that,
last
Blake.
comments?
Can
Yeah.
we get a like a link, a quick link, so that we can shoot it out via email and text? That'd be great. Thank you, Blake.
And as you talk about that, think about Mr. Waters, right? National recognition, millions of miles without an incident. But also, if you were at the safety event, there's a lot of people there with great careers at Metro. And I don't think at least I don't emphasize that enough. I know staff does. But there's just amazing opportunities to come and spend 30, 40 years working at Metro and making a great income, working with a great organization. So let's keep focusing on that too. So we have that robust network to serve the entire community. All right. Any last questions? Yeah.
I would just also add partnering with CPS in there. They have a career arm as well. And just being a part of that, if we can get some of those, that's why I asked the age. So some of those recent graduates to come back, and it's a way to be employed with a wonderful, wonderful job with great advancement opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, TNA. And I'm wondering, do we send out specifically that job fair information to like the Urban League, NAACP, organizations like that? Are we sending those directly to them?
Adrian can talk a little bit about our network there.
In addition, we do tons of marketing and advertising on multiple radio stations, but we do partnering with the Urban League right now on an initiative. So we are working with multiple organizations about the job fair in addition to the marketing that we do on radio.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, we'll keep talking about this, I'm sure, every month moving forward. But now we have another big project to get an update on Metro Rapid update. No longer BRT update, it's Metro Rapid update. Yeah.
Thank you. Before I jump to that, thank you for your nice comments regarding the CPS network and all these improvements. It's much easier when you have, a fantastic team. I'm talking about the planning. I mean, it goes across the agency. The beauty of it is they make it look easy, and you're in the transportation and you know how difficult those tasks are. I mean, dealing with, and I'm not getting millions of combinations of how you can route things and cut things and so on. So having, a great team helps. And I have two of those stars here, Mark, Samhan, and Steve. And there's, of course, a big group behind them as well. So I really appreciate my team and the rest of the agency. But again, they really make it look easy. Metro Rapid, yes. So the board expressed interest a couple months ago to get more frequent updates on Metro Rapid, just because of the size of that project and the significance of it. And today you're going to hear from Sharon. She's going to give you the most recent update, and then moving forward, we'll come to you on a monthly basis with updates on a monthly basis as well, just to keep you in the loop and answer any questions that you may have. With that, Sharon, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, and thank you all for the opportunity to give you this update on these two very important, transformative and large projects. So we're going to talk where we are in the project, talk about some specific things that questions have come up on, and then tell you about our next round of public engagement opportunities. So just wanted to bring back our goals and objectives that were set at the beginning of the alternatives analysis are still guiding our design as we move forward and have been incorporated into the design guidelines that we're using. I'm not going to read all of this lovely material on this slide, but I do want to point out, we are still looking to attract our riders and increase our load share, enhancing the network connectivity to all of the other services that Metro provides and others. Of course, providing equitable service and frequent service, making sure that a project can be built at the end of the day and that it's compatible with our community. And we have been spending a lot of time on this goal to make sure that what we build in Cincinnati is the best BRT. And then also very important and very transformative is the economic benefits that can come with the fixed investment of BRT station platforms. So we're going to talk about where we are and what we're doing on many of those fronts. So as you know, we've been in this project development phase now. We're just at about a year. It is a very long phase, and it also is the time when most of the decisions on kind of the where is going to take place. The next phase of engineering is a little bit more about the how, so it more focuses on operations, but right now we're really set and focusing on where. So we've talked and we've had a lot of public outreach around the station locations and how the lanes will be configured. We are, at least in the middle of this chart at traffic impacts, nearing very soon the end of this phase. By fall, we will start moving into the next phase, which is advanced design. And the reason that we're going through this lofty process is to get to the federal funding portion of the project. And funds are available in a program through U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Transit Administration, called the Capital Investment Grant Program. So we have to submit the projects on that. They get a rating, and then they get included in Congress's annual report to Congress, which Reading was included in the most recent report, and things are looking really good from our perspective. We have received a good rating. We've answered any of the questions from the federal partners, and we're moving forward with that. You know and have seen our station design, at least at this level of design. It will get better and it'll get tweaked and it'll personalized for each community area as we move forward. But for now, you've seen kind of what it's going to look like in the animation on how it's going to feel. The next several boxes there in green is really where we're looking to check off all of these boxes by fall. So we will have made great progress on final station locations, how the lanes are going to be configured, all of the information on the environmental impacts and the mitigation. From here, we have to move into the next phase of advanced design, and that's where we develop the third-party agreements that we will need with any of the jurisdictions that own the property. So in this case, because the project is solely within existing right-of-way, with the exception of some minor acquisitions here and there, the city of Cincinnati is our largest project partner, and then the other two cities on the north end of Hamilton, North College Hill, and Mount Healthy will all have to have written agreements with them before the federal agency will issue a grant to us. And then, of course, purchasing vehicles and making sure that we have a good sound scope to refine our capital costs so we know what we're getting into. And you've heard this before, we have all of these partners. We have the stakeholder advisory group that meets quarterly, and in that group we have a number of stakeholders and the representatives from all of the community councils and a number of businesses, associations, and business development corporations included in that stakeholder advisory group. And we update them quarterly. We had our last round of meetings in May and slightly into June. And since then, we have been meeting individually with a number of the project partners, but also these key stakeholders to help inform decisions that will make, again, the project the best it can be for Cincinnati. All in all, in 1 year's time, we have reached out to over 5,000 people. They have attended one of our events. We've had 121 VRT events in 1 year's time, which is really outstanding. We've had a great team. We've had a lot of support, getting out and getting people to the meetings. Great participation, and we couldn't be happier with where we are with this. We'll continue to build on this as the project moves forward, and in both advanced design as well as in the construction period, because we always want to be communicating with our customers on what's coming. So station locations, we have had a number of meetings, critical input that we've received. We've done 4 rounds with the public and with the open houses. So we went out with the initial kind of open, help us find a spot for your location. We came back with, here's what everybody said. We refined based on stakeholder input. And so we've done that 4 times. We will have our final station locations in our meeting in September. There may be a couple of areas where we are still working with project stakeholders that we will need to get public input on that before making the decision. So we are 90% there on the station locations. And we've talked about the importance of connecting VRT to all of the other metro services as well as the existing infrastructure. Had a lot of comments about pedestrian and bike infrastructure, and those are all things that are incorporated into our design criteria, that we are connecting the network of streets, pedestrian crossings, but also from a bike standpoint, we've coordinated with Red Bike to find out how we would coordinate having their future stations near our future stations, and then also the provisions of bikes being able to access the VRT vehicles themselves. And then, of course, economic development. development is going to include a lot of stakeholder outreach for the folks who are involved in economic development as well. So that is to be in the future soon. I would say the majority of that effort will be late fall, winter. Lane configurations, this map has been around. It's had some tweaks here and there, but really in all, we are still meeting the goal of the project being designed in a way that provides the greatest benefit to transit. We have identified a couple locations where we needed to make some modifications, and just based on community feedback. So one area we heard from a business association that if we didn't go into the lane, into the middle sooner, we would cut off an important community business and they would have no parking, because right now they only have on-street parking. And it's a place where a lot of elderly go. So we made that modification. It was probably 75 feet difference of what we originally had intended, but that's why we're out there doing this community outreach and listening to the property owners about how this can affect them personally. And the great thing about BRT is it's very flexible, and we just need to get that input, and that's what we're doing. Traffic, it is on everyone's minds. I have good news and bad news. Good news, Cincinnati really looks pretty good from a traffic standpoint. If you were a traffic engineer and looked at these things, compared them to other cities, we're really not that bad in the traffic area. However, where we are bad, we're pretty bad. And some of our most congested areas are where you are probably going to expect in the Uptown University Hospital area. And so we have been working with our partners with the city on making sure that the assessment of traffic is done in a way that it meets the city standards and expectations, but also reflects the existing real-time conditions that are out there. So we have traffic engineers use a little grading scale, A to F, and just like school, A's great, F bad. And so we are analyzing every single intersection from the riverfront to the ends of Line on Boat. There's 86 intersections on Reading, and then more than double that on Hamilton. So with that, we have to create this very complicated model. We take field conditions, people go out and actually count the traffic. That goes into the model, and that represents the existing conditions. We did that work. We sent that to the city engineers. The city engineers, with their knowledge of the city and, okay.
We'll close it. Those people.
With their, great information shared with us, well, I think it backs up a little bit more here in the mornings, it backs up a little bit more here. So we went back out and did what's called a Q analysis, and we used videos and drone to really get an accurate representation. We can go back and count again if we need to. And so we did that. We incorporated that into that base model. Again, making sure that we're all in lockstep agreement on the input that goes into the model, because the way models work is it's only as good as what you put in. So we've got the best data in now. We have run the initial model, and we have those initial results. Most of the intersections have no appreciable change as a result of different lane configurations. There are some that get worse, and there are some that get better. So we are looking and working with the city on those that don't get better, those that get worse, so that we can come up with solutions, whether that be change, or it may be that we have to remove a slip lane for a turn, or maybe it's something that we need to widen in an intersection area to make the intersection work more effectively. So we have the existing conditions model and we have a future conditions model. And the future condition will show it with BRT, with all of our buses, and we have also agreed with the city to add in a more complex model than we originally intended. It's called VISM, and it's a visual simulation. I did it. And I always stumble over that word, so Holland's laughing over there. And it shows in real time what's happening. And it's really important, especially with the streetcar in downtown and all of our other fixed routes. So Natalie, can you click on the VISM bottom left? Yes.
Control click. Control click.
Control click. And it's hefty, so it'll take a moment. Oh no. I may have to grant you access to that.
If you click on that request access, it might make it easier for her to grant.
I'm gonna ask Steve here if you see that pop through. In the meantime, we'll talk about transit signal priority. So transit signal priority, also called traffic signal priority, has been used in cities for quite some time. Holland will tell you that he worked on a plan for the city of Columbus for TSP services. And so in what, the 90s? 90s?
I'm not that old. It was
Yeah.
99 2000. And actually, we published a couple of papers on that. So
And so it has been around and used in cities quite a bit, but the technology has really evolved throughout time, and it does some fabulous things. But first and foremost, it is a requirement that TSP be used at some level on a BRT project that receives federal funding. So it is something that's integral to the design of the bus rapid transit. And basically what it does is communicates from the vehicle to a signaler, and it asks for either a longer green light or a shorter red. So if you're coming up, a driver's coming up and there's a red light, then it'll switch to green. It only clear, if it was red, it'll only clear for the time that the bus goes through, it goes back to red. If it's green, it'll just extend that phase. So it is a very minor change to a traffic signaling system, and it will be used in areas where it can be and make the best of both car travel, but also bus and bus rapid transit travel. So the benefits are not just bus rapid transit with this system. It connects to the existing traffic control centers. It is not something that we will own or operate. It will be operated by the city. We would have that third-party agreement, and we're gonna have to figure out who's gonna pay for what. Our grant does allow for us to pay for the system and the software, and then of course there is a minor need for someone to also be looking at that and monitoring the effectiveness of the program. The benefits of TSP is that there is less time stopped at a light, which means the overall transit trip is going to be faster. Transit times are also often more reliable with TSP. There is lower fuel consumption and reduced energy use in emissions. does not have TSP for emergency vehicles. That's shocking for someone like myself who has worked with a number of different cities. We do not have it, and BRT can bring that technology to the city with very little investment, because we use the same CAD AVL system that the city uses for their emergency services as well. And the BRT lanes themselves, most cities also allow the BRT emergency vehicles to get in that lane and use it. Kind of just like going around on a shoulder, they use that now, right? So those are all great things and reasons why signal priority is really integral to the BRT project.
Can I ask a question? Sharon, excuse me. I'm getting a little anxious about TSP, just because I know, like, I mean, this is like the crux of like what is going to make this work, I think, and I'm curious. You know, I know we have a great relationship with the city. In your opinion, does the city have the capacity from an operations standpoint, a staffing standpoint, a technology standpoint, like to make this successful with us? I know you just said that some of these improvements can be paid for with a grant, but like, is there anything else that needs to happen at the city level to make sure that this is, that they're functioning at the highest level that we need them to be functioning? And is there anything we need to do to help with that?
Right, absolutely. And that is one of the long-term things that we need to work on negotiating with the city. There are a variety of other topics as well that we will need their assistance with, and things that we have to iron out with the city, like who's going to remove the snow, who's going to repaint it, what if there's a pothole, what if we need to do utilities underneath it. So that third-party agreement would really iron out all of those things. And then what we will determine through our process with our federal partners is, you know, if we buy this, the software operates on, you can buy it for 1 year or you can pay for 10 years. You can pay for 10 years within the grant that we're working on. I guess in today's world, you don't want to not look at the emergency alerts, right?
If I may just add, one other thing on that, and it's a great question, Sarah. Usually, the TSP is signal priority. It's kind of like it runs on its own. You definitely need somebody just to monitor, any errors, any issues with the system itself. That this signal went down or whatever. But it's not like you need somebody who's full-time monitoring it. The system is smart enough to make decisions on its own. So a bus approaching an intersection and requesting priority, it's not guaranteed that that bus is going to get it. So the signals are going to make their own decisions based on other inputs, like the counts, the flow of the vehicles from either side, both sides of the streets, and then it's going to either grant it or deny that priority. So all of that intelligence is built into that system. And as Sharon said, yes, there's going to be maintenance, just because of the equipment that's going to be installed. But again, that's really very, very, very minor issue, but it will be part of that third-party agreement.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, if there's anything that we can do at any point to help advocate for anything that you need, just let us know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the city's been incredibly supportive, and they're very vocally supportive of BRT and all that it's going to do for the city. So I'm very optimistic that this TPA will get all of that detailed, and we'll have a high level of service. Yep.
Yeah, because the benefit of TSP is, certainly to get the buses through the intersections much faster. And as Sharon said, it'll be available for their emergency vehicles, whether it's the fire trucks, the ambulances, the police car, and so on. And I'm not advocating this for Cincinnati, but what other cities have experimented is also allowing signal priority for trucks. because just like buses, trucks are very heavy, and when they stop and then they have to start and move, they rot the pavement. So yes, it keeps buses move faster, but also minimizes the rotting of the asphalt. And as I said, other cities have extended it to trucking as well.
Somewhat of a piggyback, Sarah. So this is concentrated for just the city of Cincinnati. We're talking about TSP, or does this extend the entire corridor? So what happens when you leave Cincinnati, and then we've got to deal with these smaller municipalities that how does that work?
Yeah.
Two, and right now we need to get in touch with their traffic engineers to find out if they defer to the city or the county, and we'll continue that coordination.
Just to add to what Sharon said, we're just starting that conversation, the TSP, so we still have a lot of work to be done. And that's an excellent question, because there are two ways of implementing TSP, what we call localized versus centralized system. So localized, we install equipment on board the buses and equipment at each intersection buses will be traversing through. And then the bus is talking to that specific signal at that intersection requesting priority. And then that signal is making a decision, yes or no. And then the centralized one is we don't install any equipment on board the buses nor at the signals at the intersections. We have the CAD AVL system, which knows where all the buses are, talking to the centralized signal system. And then these two systems are talking to each other and then requesting signal priority. There are pros and cons to each system. To address your question, if we go with the centralized, where our CAD AVL system, central system, is talking to the Cincinnati system, it's going to require interfacing between these systems, and it's not cheap. To your point, if we're going to extend it at other jurisdictions, we need to create other interfaces with their signal system, because probably it's going to be different than Cincinnati's. So we're creating multiple interfaces. With the localized, where we put equipment at signals, we only put these at along these corridors, regardless of the jurisdiction. But then you're not extending priority across the entire service area, right? It's only available where you have these equipment at intersections. So it adds more complexity, cost, maintenance, but you don't have to create multiple interfaces to different systems, which could be a bit costly. But all of that is part of that conversation that we're just starting to tackle on that particular topic. So there's two ways of doing it. We'll be, of course, doing what is best for us and the region.
So in order to achieve a rapid effect, we would really need to stack as many of these elements as possible in order to reduce our ride time, right?
Yeah,
so to speak. So
yeah, because let's just take the centralized system where the CAD AVL is talking to the central traffic signal. Then if we do that interface, then we have literally priority across all intersections within the city of Cincinnati, okay, in one shot, one interface. But, and we usually avoid downtown area. We usually don't do TSP in downtown just because the distance between intersections is too short, tons of traffic, it would mess things up. So we usually avoid the downtown area. But if we do that centralized system, then in one shot, we have priority across the entire Cincinnati area. So
can you do centralized in Cincinnati and then outside localized?
That could be an option as well, yeah. But we need to look at, long term, because it's going to benefit, not only BRT, it's going to benefit the other routes, emergency vehicles, and so on. So we'll be looking at all of these combinations.
Okay.
But yeah,
Thank you.
great.
We have a number of vendors that were interested in sharing, their platforms with us, and we're working with the city to get together some times that we can entertain the vendors and we can all ask questions of, the different things that they have. The one problem with the equipment-based to police and fire, then each vehicle has to be equipped.
Yep.
Alright, so can we run that system? So this is the traffic model, just to back off of TSP for a moment and go back to traffic. This is existing conditions, and it shows in the all the fun colors, purple, blue, white. This has all been modeled for what our existing routes are doing today and the type of traffic. You'll see even a truck coming through there. The blue blobs are driveways for parking garages and access. And the red is we actually do have a current red area on Main Street that is an existing bus-only lane during peak period. So that's what you're seeing at the bottom of the screen on Main. And then there is also the streetcar is modeled into this, so we can identify if there are any potential areas where streetcar and bus rapid transit would connect.
And pedestrians.
And pedestrians. Shows pedestrians as well. All right. Next slide. So back on the topic of TSP. TSP has been implemented in a number of cities across the country. This map is from 2017 and shows just those that chose to participate in an overall survey that was being done. But just to show you the extent of where else it is, note our other Midwest cities, CODA, GCRTA, PACE, and now Indigo is not on this, but they have it as well. Portland implemented TSP with their BRT project a couple of years ago on the FX2. They have an annual requirement with the city to evaluate how effective TSP is, and this is the result of the most recent study. Their fuel usage with TSP, with the TSP turned off, they had an increase in fuel usage of 13% and an increase of total number of vehicle hours spent on the route, as well as an increase in operating hours. So as you know, that all computes to dollars and cents. So that's a good reason why TSP is important. Another one is in the upper right-hand corner, shows the difference in the travel time for their overall trip, which is a very long trip of 97 minutes. With TSP on, they saw almost a 9% improvement, and then on-time arrival, an increase of 10% and 14%. So all good reasons. Again, we are continuing to do the coordination with all of the project stakeholders, make sure that this is the best project that it can be. Next slide. We are staying on schedule with the two timelines that you've seen before for implementation and opening in early 2028 for Reading. And then we are preparing for another large round of public open houses, again, to share these final station locations. Next slide. And we have, just as early as yesterday, scheduled one that will be right here in the Metro building on the 23rd floor on September 23rd, which is conveniently your next big board meeting. So we would love to have you come out and hear what others are saying, learn more about the project. We will be presenting those final station locations and talking in more detail about the final alignment alternatives in downtown and uptown.
Thank you so much.
A lot of information, I know.
And we're building the narrative every month on BRT, Metro Rapid, as you think about things like TSP or dedicated lanes or stop design. These are all the elements that combine to increase the speed of travel on a BRT system. So no one single thing does it, but when they all come together, you see decrease in travel time. So we'll learn more about other aspects of this that are going into the engineering, design, planning in the months to come. as we work to achieve the goal. And I know rapid has been a big question, the rapid part of BRT among the board, and I've been asking more questions about it. And one important thing that I've learned is FTA is not going to fund the project if it's not rapid. So that's why we have to do all this work, do all these studies, and prove that it will be before we implement it. And it seems a really important point. You know, we're not going to build this if it's not rapid. All right. Thank you very much. All right. A few more things, don't we? Unless there were other questions. Okay. Service changes, ridership, and then we have 6 procurement items. Steve. Oh. Steve and Haled, service changes. Haled, you want to start us off?
Yeah, just a couple of words before I turn it over to Steve. We're finally implementing further improvements to the network, thanks to the entire agency, especially HR and recruitment, and getting us, more drivers and operations and everybody else. We're really excited about these improvements, as you will hear from Steve. And we did start the public participation, public involvement meetings. I'm sorry if I'm going to steal your thunder here, Steve, but yesterday's meeting at was it the main library? Yep. I mean, everybody there was enthusiastic and very, very, very excited about these improvements. So with that, go.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, Board of Trustees. The August 2025 service changes represent phase 4 of reinventing Metro. We've been at it for 4 years now. And in keeping with the speed theme, a lot of what we're doing are services that are moving faster than our usual fixed route bus. It was about 14 miles per hour. We talked about Route 8, Route 2. These are commuter style routes that operate in peak service, peak part of the day, that do travel on the interstate at some point. In addition, we'll be increasing frequency and span on some routes. And I think the biggest takeaway here is that Route 37 will run all day and all weekends. But we'll go into some more detail in this next slide. Thank you. Route 37, Westwood, Uptown, Oakley. You have 2 transit centers. You've got Uptown, you've got Walnut Hills High School. But my favorite part of this route is the Westwood Northern section of this route. This area does not currently have local service. They have local routes that cross it. But that area of Westwood Northern between Boudinot and Hopple does not have regular local service. This is important because this corridor is highlighted in the city's Connected Communities program. So it's high time that these folks receive local service. It's an area that's challenging as a pedestrian. You have sidewalks in some areas you may not have as many sidewalks. It's hilly and the traffic is going pretty fast. This was one time supposed to be Interstate 74 before a change was made back in the 60s. So we're really excited to add service to this route. We have a lot of transit-dependent folks over there. Again, this route is already operating for primarily school trips, school-related service, but now we'll be operating it all day, starting about 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Frequencies will maintain themselves for the peak at 15, off-peak around 40, which we can always improve. Of course, we'd like to do better initially, but we're going to build it as we begin to build out some of the other programs that serve on this corridor. Next slide. We talk about standing loads and moving folks from uptown to downtown. Route 19 plays a huge part of that. When I first got here to Cincinnati, I looked at Route 19. We had frequencies at 15 minutes, 35 minutes, and then 55 minutes. It was very jagged. We've continued to build on this route. Now we're offering 15-minute frequency between downtown and Mount Airy. That's the meat of the main route on peak service on weekdays. And the way we're doing that is we'll turn every other trip will turn around at the Kirby and Colerain UDF there in Mount Airy. Very important to get to 15-minute frequency on this route. You start to get into I don't need a schedule territory. So we've seen the success on some of our local routes what 15 minutes can do. Welcome Route 19 to the club. Off-peak frequency will remain at 30 minutes. And again, we'll continue to monitor it to Route 8, a new route, is hitting Cincinnati. Probably no route is truly new because we probably had a Route 8 back in the old elder days. But the new reincarnated Route 8 will be a express style route at a local fare, so it's $2.20 because it fits the criteria of local service as part of our upcoming fare restructure. This is Blue Ash, Pleasant Ridge. Stop by Andy's house, pick him up, and take him home. Did that special for him. You know, the number 8 is an infinite number. I'm halfway joking. So we'll talk about what this route is replacing in the next couple slides, but primarily it's to get from Blue Ash down to downtown. Trips will go in both directions, peak only service on weekdays, but we're really excited about Route 8. Some CPS children do actually use the faster route. Some CPS kids do see this as a speedy alternative to perhaps taking a Route 4 that may take longer. Next slide. Route 2 will become modified. Route 2 previously did a lot of what that Route 8 was doing in the Pleasant Ridge, Silverton, Highland, and Leicester area. We'll make that service more direct now. It'll stop at Madeira, then it will actually pull into the Oakley Transit Center. This is a first for this route, and then continue on down I-71. Trips will be provided in both directions. Previously, the trips were only in one direction. Next slide. Now, our express service is going to get faster and cheaper as part of the fare restructuring. Route 3X, this is one of our main express routes in the I-71 Northeast Corridor. We're modifying that service. The routes I showed you previously are doing the Cooper, Blue Ash, Montgomery work. This route is going to stop at a couple parking rides up in Sims Township and Fields Erdel, and then boogie on down the highway after it services Bethesda North. The trips will remain the same in terms of timing, but we anticipate this service to be 15 to 25% faster than the current Route 3 is now. Now, there's a lot of ridership on Route 3. We're going to make sure we work with our communication and operations department to know about the changes. We have service change meetings all this week, and there'll be some slides on that at the end of this presentation. Route 71X, Kings Island. We'll be modifying this route to get to downtown faster. Kings Mill, Kings Island do most of the heavy lifting in terms of ridership on this route. You see a lot of red there in Warren County on Western Row, Mason, Montgomery Road, Columbia. These areas are extremely low ridership. They herald from a day back when we had JARC funding. If any of my veterans remember that program. We've waited. It's just been not a whole lot of ridership. You're talking about 3 to 4 people a day. So we're encouraging those folks to use our parking rides. The Route 71 needs extra service because we're actually having crowding concerns, especially in the afternoon. I've had staff reach out to say how excited they were because they're actually using this route as well. The only other modification I would say is there is midday service that will be added to Route 71. Probably the first time in our history that we've had an express bus that would operate in the midday. So if folks forget their lunch or not feeling well by 10 o'clock, they can head on back to the northeast part of our service area. And again, it got cheaper. It's now it'll be $3. We're excited. Route 72, the other Kings Island. Part of the motivation for the 71 improvements was to kind of consolidate 2 routes going the same place, doing the same thing. This route will continue to operate. It will serve out the rest of the King Island summer season. It peters out in the later fall, and then that will be merged onto the 71. We'll still do Kings Island type services in the summer. As again, we begin to build out more drivers, more resources. We'll look to expand Route 71 into nights and weekends as well, because it'd be great to be able to catch a Bengals game or a Reds game and be able to park in the parking lot. Next slide. School-related adjustments. As Chief of Staff Ravazia mentioned, we are serving a lot more schools now. There's a little bit of movement around. Of particular notice for us is Evanston Academy, which will serve as the middle school for Withrow, and Ethel Taylor Middle School, which is primarily the West Side's middle school. So we are modifying some routes, we're adjusting some routes to better serve those locations and reduce walking distance. Next slide. This is a visual of what we're doing. We have looked at where the student So the Route 27 deviation, typically it goes down Lynn and Bank Street. We'll have a couple trips that will serve 8th and State. It's just a much safer, much better area for the kids to transfer. We believe there's some value and some benefit for regular Metro passengers as well to have more trips on the 27. And same idea with the Route 65. We will deviate down to the school at the Taylor on Beacon to make sure the kids on the west side are not having to transfer unnecessarily. Next slide. We would not have a presentation with such major impacts without a Title VI slide. Our service team did the analysis. We found no major disproportionate burdens to low-income individuals, no disparate impacts to minorities. Title VI is extremely important to us, and actually we found that it's probably going to be an overall benefit to all of our riders, regardless of minority status and or income. We're excited. This is a big week for us. We've got bear restructuring, and we're also holding a series of public meetings to gather feedback on these changes, including this meeting. Technically, will count as a public meeting. Last night, we're at the downtown library. Tonight, we'll have staff on hand at the Westwood Public Library, promote that Route 37, get feedback, as well as Blue Ash, and then a series of virtual meetings this Thursday. And we'll look to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I have one question. This is merely for my own education. Can you go back to the 3X? I do take that route sometimes. I just want to make sure I read it correctly. So the red that's being removed, that still is going to connect. The black is still like right on the Montgomery Road side of Silverton, right? Which would be like on the other side of Plainfield Road.
So Neil, I think the red that is on this slide that was previously part of the 3X, you will see is now part of the 8. Is that correct,
That will
Steve?
be at 8. Okay.
If you go, Natalie, if you go back to, yep, keep going. Keep going. There you go. Is that what you're looking for? So now the 8 serves that portion of Montgomery from Silverton down to Highland.
Okay, so you would transfer from one to the other, right? You could,
What's your destination?
like, from year 2 up to Deer Park.
It'd be a 1-seat ride on the 8.
Okay, okay.
Is that correct, Steve?
Yes.
Good. Okay, that's,
So
that
do
answers.
you get on the 3 on Blue Ash Road in Deer Park?
Yes.
Somewhere near? Yeah.
Yeah,
Just so 8.
okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, ridership and service quality. Halud Bill. Haled Bill. Who goes first here?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll go fairly quickly because it's already 10:30.
Thank you.
This is, of course, the June's ridership. On fixed route, we carried just over 1 million in June, slightly lower than budgeted, but about 4.5% higher than June of last year, which is a good thing. Total to year to date, about 6.5 million, 7% lower than budgeted, but 2% higher than same time last year, even though we haven't implemented new service yet. Next slide, please. On access, we carried about 14,700 people, 4% lower than budget, but same story as with fixed route, still higher than last year's ridership in June. Next slide. Metro Now, as you all know, we introduced the third zone in June, which is the Forest Park one. We're still carrying, a few hundred on that one. It's still, in its infancy. We expect it to grow just like the other two did. We carried just short of 11,000, 2% lower than budget. I know the table is showing 66% higher than last year, but really that doesn't mean much because these zones have been growing. So, but they're still healthy. Yep. In terms of productivity, the local service productivity is at 14.2 passengers per hour. Express trips at 7.5 passengers per trip. We're still seeing some recovery on the express routes, which is trending in the right direction. On the access, it's about 18.5 passengers per hour, lower than 1.85. It'd be great to carry
That'd be
18
amazing.
point. Like, what am I saying here? How big of paratransit vehicles do we have? Sorry, it's jet lag, I guess.
It's all good.
1.85 passengers per hour, slightly lower than the budgeted of 2.2. Metro now, it's 3.3, slightly slipped because of the introduction of the third zone. But as I said, that's expected, and we expect all three to keep growing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bill.
Thank you, Khaled. We switch and we go through the service quality report. I'll just hit the quick highlights in the interest of our time. Fixed route on-time performance, we saw another increase for June, and we expect the same thing for July, and we're seeing that for July so far, so that is good news for us as we continue to work on creeping up fixed route on-time performance. Next. Access on-time performance, we were actually better than goal this past month, so we're happy about that. That continues to be a strong area for us.
With an 18.5 productivity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's that 18.5 productivity, that's right. Metro Now, also same thing, is strong in terms of on-time performance. As Khaled said, Zone 3 will slowly increase. You did see that in the productivity. That's because we've got the Zone 3 vehicles out there, so that's the reduction in productivity. We've actually seen an increase in the number of canceled trip requests, and so we looked in the data just this past week and saw that one of the reasons is VIA believes, the software people believe, it's because some of the requests are getting filled so fast that people are rejecting them. They're going in and they're asking for a trip, and it's offering the trip within 3 or 4 minutes, and people are saying, no, I can't go that fast. So,
Okay.
Interesting dynamic there. Fixed route missed trips, we did see an increase in missed trips in June. That is directly related to our fixed route operator staffing challenge that we continue to work through. We will see that continue through July and probably through August as we work through hiring and training and trying to build that workforce back up. We are working with ATU, our partners, to come up with some additional ways that we can squeak out some additional service coverage, so we'll see a little bit of improvement there. Customer service reports, that is a direct result of the increase in missed trips. We've done some analysis there, and we did see an increase in June, and that was directly related to the increase in missed trips that we experienced in June. Fixed route miles between mechanical service interruptions, we saw a slight improvement in June. We continue to work on this. As we talked about last month, this is a long-term project for us to improve our fleet service reliability, and we hope to see incremental increases over the next few months. And that should do it.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right. So most of these are fairly routine, if not all, procurements. John, are you going to take us through those?
I am, yes. Yeah, as you said, fairly routine. 6 items before the board, 4 modifications, and 2 new awards starting at the top. Seeking a contract modification for medical exam services. This is largely driven by drug testing, so consider hiring and our hiring volume. There's a great deal of pre-employment drug testing and certainly drug testing for safety-sensitive employees as they come on board. We're seeking a $280,000 spending modification. on top of an $845,000 contract. Two things to note here. We would seek to extend the contract through May of 26, adding length to that contract, while at the same time not only accounting for volume, but our internal IT team is working on a record retention improvement tied to this program. So you can imagine the required documentation, chain of custody forms, et cetera, all sorts of compliant elements. Here, we're working on an internally developed program to streamline that record retention. That's the medical exam services modification with TriHealth through Bethesda. Second up is a modification to the Trapeze contract. This is a $184,000 modification on a $2.7 million award. To cut to the chase, this is part of our continuing efforts to integrate the Trapeze system, which runs so much of our operation, with the HASDIS scheduling software program to find more improvements, more efficiencies in how we cut our runs, namely with the goal, the target of reducing our necessary operator headcount through more efficient run cutting. This modification would continue that process of finding an integration of these systems. Third up is a modification for our FleetWatch software program. This is a $67,000 modification on a $433,000 contract. We've made several upgrades to the FleetWatch system. As you do upgrades, you find incompatible hardware and software as you do that, right? Here, namely, our tank monitoring hardware, related software, et cetera. This will lead us towards better fluid dispensing for the vehicles and also has a regulatory compliance element as well. Fourth modification is for temporary labor service or temp staffing. This is a $245,000 modification on a $458,000 original award. This contract extends through February of 27, a 3-year award, but given vacancy rates, we hit on that earlier in the Finance Committee there, the team decides what openings to staff with temporary services, so critical functions, various administrative support positions. We've made use of this arrangement to bring on temporary recruiters in the HR department to aid the staffing shortfall. So while this is also maybe an unbudgeted cost increase, it's certainly accounted for in the budget in terms of savings on the headcount, right? These are full-time employees that are not filled and don't hit the wage and benefit line. We're seeking to extend our use of temporary staff services. We continue to try to recruit in the current and challenging labor market. Those are the 4 modifications. 2 new awards. First up, diesel exhaust fluid. This is a 1-year, $217,000 contract ask of the board to provide diesel exhaust fluid. Think of it as a type of chemical catalytic converter related to the exhaust system and clean buses. Essentially, our fleet won't run without DEF, right? This is an invitation for bid, so a low bid contract to a responsible bidder. This would go to ProChoice. They happen to be the incumbent. It's a 13% increase on that cost per gallon, but the incumbent was still the lowest price to respond to this request here. So diesel exhaust fluid, $217,000. The final item, we're seeking approval of a sole source award for Message Point Media to the tune of $131,000. Please note this is also funded 49% through a federal grant. This would provide upgraded new signage at the Northside Transit Center. So think route information, real-time information, and we would seek to do it through Message Point Media, who also provides the content for the onboard monitors and all that scheduling information and such. So streamline the portal for content. We could apply the same things, the same themes at Northside Transit Centers as riders see on the buses. So $131,000 contract, half funded through a federal grant. That's a high-level run-through of the items. We're certainly happy to answer any detailed questions.
I think most of these, or all of them, could go on the consent agenda. I did have one question on the Northside Transit Center.
Yep.
When might that be implemented? Estimate.
Pat, estimate on implementation length for the NTC signage?
Ballpark.
Ballpark.
It's exciting. I just want to see it. Yeah. So
We
You'll get back to
haven't placed the order, so we don't have a delivery time frame. These are typically 6 to 9 months, though. They're prefabricated and ordered, and not surprisingly, they do come from abroad, so it is a bit of a timeline. So I would comfortably estimate 6 to 9 months at least.
but it'll be nice to have it, Northside Transit Center. So I was asking more out of a curiosity and excitement.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And they'll look nice.
Great.
I agree with Pat, 6 to 9 months, especially in this particular case, because as John said, all of our buses have their signs. So we have 600 signs of them on board our buses. So it's going to be the same software interfaces and so on. So that's going to make it a much faster implementation. But, getting the hardware is key. So 6 to 9 months.
The long lead will be just getting the hardware in. The actual implementation installation will be very fast.
Excellent. Thank you.
While Pat's up there, I'll take the opportunity to also thank Pat for cooperating with the Speedy team. Not only did we target failing equipment, where do you see the look of these at the NTC in terms of what an exterior real-time arrival sign can look like? That's just a little teaser trailer for you. Images to come. Bree, question?
I'm excited as well. So, could you say this is a pilot location, or did I miss hearing that their implementation elsewhere?
We didn't say that, but it's certainly the kind of thing that we could start rolling out throughout the system.
Would love to share that. If and when you're ready, we're very proud of the many ways in which we get to pilot things, and so yes.
I also have a question.
This will definitely be the next generation of what those signs look like.
I also have a question about the Northside Transit Center, and I don't know, I can't visualize exactly what you're talking about, but if we had a system that is just not working, why don't we fix that system instead of just replacing the whole thing? I understand the coordination and, with what's going on the bus, but is there any, are we just throwing something away that currently exists, or is this a all new system?
It's a great question. Yeah, great question, Sarah. And just looking at in terms of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, looking at the cost to make some of these fixes versus replacing it, and fixing it would be, obviously slightly cheaper. But the approach is also, right now we have different signs at different transit centers, like Government Square, North Side, the Uptown Center, Oakley, and so on. And all of these are getting really old. So the approach, with working with IT and so on, is let's streamline all of that. Now we had an opportunity as we, renovate Government Square, North Side, some of the old signs that we have Uptown, all of these are going to need to be replaced. So, and we have the MPM on our buses right now, and this is a great system. Let's start that approach and replace them and have all of them on the same system. Pat?
Yeah, not only is this, coordination with SPDI on, what you'll see at the transit centers and everything else, our communications team, this is the same content management system then, that when they put messages out onto the buses that you see that have the route ladders and those 2 digital displays on the buses, it'll be the same ability and enable them to do the same distribution of messaging across to our transit centers as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Well, I think that we can vote on these all as a block. So I would move that we put all 6 of these proposed resolutions on the consent agenda unless anybody wants to consider them separately. All right. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say left. Any abstentions? All right, so Natalie, please put them all on the full board on the consent agenda, and that gets us through all our normal business. Any new business? Hearing none, we can adjourn. Thank you very much.